Good morning, everyone. This is Jeffe Kennedy, author of Epic Fantasy Romance. I'm here with my first cup of coffee. Very good. Today is Monday, December 12th, 12/12, 2022. And if you're on video, you'll see that I got out the holiday mugs. This one is a glass mug from Starbucks, my fave. And you may also see that my nails are in terrible raggedy shape, and my nail gal just canceled. She had an emergency and is leaving town. So but we're just not even going to discuss the fact that I'm a mess. But look at this cute cup, which has like red and clear beads in the handle, making it look like a candy cane. So, yeah, here we are. I did get Christmas semi under control this weekend. I got all of the decorating done inside and out, which helps with the Christmas spirit. And now I have to deal with presents. That's the big thing. Both getting lists to people and figuring out what other people want and all of that, which is actually the fun part. I do enjoy. The decorating is the fun part too. And I took some time over it this weekend, so that was really nice. I think I'm finally starting to feel the accretive effects. Is that the word I want? Of having somebody else clean my house, because I can do things like take time with the Christmas decorating, and the cleaning ladies come tomorrow. Please don't let them cancel, and then everything will look really nice. So yeah, I just feel bad that my nails look so terrible, but that's what I get for being in the surf and so forth. Um, so So yeah, it was good to just sort of enjoy the weekend, uh, enjoy doing those things. I did stuff at a pretty slow pace, and so that was good. I also, and this was kind of interesting, some of you who follow me on social media saw that I reread my first book, which is, well, actually, let's just grab it here. Wyoming Trucks, True Love, and the Weather Channel. So, to my astonishment, this came out nearly 20 years ago. It came out in 2004. And it's an essay collection. It's back when I was writing creative nonfiction. About half the essays in the book are had been previously published in various venues, publications. Others were exclusive to this book. And I mailed it off on Friday to a friend who is a new writing friend and wanted to read it. And I was thinking about him reading it and thinking, I wonder what's even in that book anymore. It had been so long. Uh, I think in fact, I'm sure, I reread all the essays. I'm going to take it back. When we put the collection together, okay, so here's the story. Um, Although you did not ask, you get to hear. So there's an essay in the book called Of Swallows, Snakes, and Science, and it had won a contest. I can't even remember what contest it was now, some Wyoming contest. I was obviously living in Wyoming at the time. And I had sent it off to my professor from college, my religious studies professor, to whom the book is dedicated, Professor Hoddes, who has passed on now. And I sent it to him because there were things I was thinking about in that essay. So I sent it to him because I just thought he would enjoy reading it. And unbeknownst to me, he sent it along to his sister, who was an acquiring editor at University of New Mexico Press. Um, and at the time, I was not living in New Mexico. Uh, the essay of Swallows, Snakes, and Science does take place in New Mexico. It's about some field work I was doing in New Mexico. But otherwise, it was kind of a coincidence, except that New Mexico has played an interesting role in my life. I didn't imagine I would be living here. But she loved the essay, and she emailed me and asked me if she was in time to publish my first book, which when I tell this story, like how I first got published and all of this. And of course, I had been publishing, I think my first essay was published in like 1994. So, but for getting your book published, I did have told people, don't try this at home. It's not a reliable method, but except for the fact that networking works. Keep those connections, nourish them. So she asked me if I had thought about writing a book, which I had not. She asked me if I thought I could. I said yes. And we put together this essay collection. And as I recall, I went through all of my essays that I had at the time, because even then I had spreadsheets. And I think she rejected two. And I swapped them out with other ones. And she was happy. And thus this book was born. And one of the essays is entitled Wyoming Trucks, True Love on the Weather Channel. So it was interesting to, it's funny to look at the blurbs on the back, the people that I knew then and how nice they were to me. I started to read, I turned off, but then I thought, why don't I read it out loud? Paisley Rekdal, who now has become quite famous. Oh, and look, they have it backwards on the cup. They have it as Redcall, and it is Red Rekdal. That's funny. I never noticed that before. Sorry, Paisley. Anyway, she said, an accomplished first book of essays that takes as one of its many themes the vulnerability, violence, and delight of claiming a Western and a female identity in today's world. Kennedy's book roves through topics as diverse as family history, hair color, pickup trucks, and the pratfalls of female friendships with startling insight and delightful results. Isn't that nice of her? And Alison Hagee, who was one of my professors, said these essays wing their way into your heart, even as they wend their way into Jeffy Kennedy's vivid, beguiling memories of girlhood, womanhood, and the West. The voice here is priceless, filled with both wisdom and moxie, and the writing is as smooth and true as your favorite road-tripping truck. Lee Gutkind, editor of Creative Nonfiction, who never did publish any of my essays, said Kennedy writes vividly and with great clarity. Her sensitivity and empathy for other people enhances an unusually authentic ability to establish three-dimensional characterization. I won't read all of them. There were two others, but I won't read them all but boy, that was kind of fun. So anyway, it was very interesting rereading this book. I read it over the course of the day. It's a pretty fast read. The book isn't very long, and of course it's in essay pieces, so it's 165 pages. You can get it in ebook too if you want to. I have a lot of hard copies if you want to buy one through the web store. So anyway, yeah, very interesting to reread those. And I know what I started to say before was, did I read all of those essays through before we published the book? Maybe not. Some of the ones that had already been through professional editing, that had been published in various places, like Redbook was the big one. The story Thanksgiving, or the essay Thanksgiving, was published in Redbook. That's the one where I got the now mythical $1 award. That was an awesome score. It was also overall, I should give my overall thing. I was pleased with it. I don't often go back and read older stuff of mine. There is always the experience of the ones that I would tighten up. There's an essay early in the book that I feel like has a lot of fat in it. I was really longing to go in and tighten it up. But other ones I thought were really moving, were really enjoyable, and I was proud of myself. It was also very interesting to think about the fact that this book came out when I was in my late 30s, and many of the essays had been written starting in my mid to late 20s, and to revisit the person that I was then, where my mind was, the things that I believed. It's been a migration since then, a big change in the work I do. That now I write fiction full time, whereas a lot of those essays talk about my training in science and work that I was doing as a scientist. So, yeah, that was an interesting experience. Um, it's funny because this is obviously a very long title: Wyoming Trucks, True Love, and the Weather Channel. And I remember that they had asked me for a subtitle, which we finally came up with as A Woman's Adventure. And I remember being very resistant to it at the time, because I felt like the title was long enough. And I understand now why they wanted that subtitle. And this is obviously not, at least obvious to me, not a good subtitle. It doesn't tell you anything, which is, so I'm not sure why they accepted it. But I would give it a different subtitle now. And what else was I thinking about this? Oh, so because it says A Woman's Adventure, and so there's the title page, and I signed it to my friend, and I circled woman, and I said, take this with a grain of salt, because a lot of those essays, I don't know, I feel like very young in my perspective. At the same time, grounding in my perspective. And now I'm kind of sorry in a way that I don't have essays. I suppose I have this podcast. Before that, I have my blog. I could go back and read those things. And maybe I should, because it did give me a perspective on how my life has moved, how my thinking has changed. Um, One of my stalwart podcast listeners out there, hi, Stephanie, sent me a really lovely note about the things I said about AI. Uh, and let me find this. Okay, I found it. I even went back to look to see what I said about AI, and I felt like I didn't even say all that much about it. But she told me she appreciated the podcast, and she said that I tackle polarizing subjects like AI with such calm competence. I feel chuffed about that. She said that she walked away feeling soothed and comforted, but also informed at the same time instead of emotional and distressed. And she said she thinks it's a Jeffy superpower and that she's grateful for me. Isn't that sweet? Um, Very sweet. Thank you, Stephanie. And I should close Discord now so I'm not distracted by it. So that was something that came out of the essays when I was reading them, was this sense of that steadiness of philosophy that I was trying to cultivate then, and maybe have cultivated since. The Taoism, that finding the middle path through the emotional rocky waves of the world, right? Interesting to contemplate. And it helped put me back in touch with some of those things that I had not thought about in a long time, and why I made decisions that I did early in my life, and how my life has changed since. It's very uh, interesting to contemplate. In January, David and I will have been together for 32 years, and 12 of those years have been here in Santa Fe. So, it's interesting that there's like this whole, the 20 years that we were together in Wyoming are starting to be eclipsed by the time here. And I'm thinking about all the ways that our lives are so different, because he's also, let's see, is it 12 years? No, sorry, we've been in Santa Fe for 13 years, and he's 12 years into the Parkinson's diagnosis. So it's interesting to think about that. We have been living with him having Parkinson's for over a decade, over a third of our relationship, right? And I hadn't thought about that way. And it puts things into perspective for me. So those of you who have a chronic illness or live with someone who has a chronic illness, I think you know something of what I'm talking about. And I don't always go into the difficulties here. Um, for many years, I didn't talk about it at all because David didn't want people to know. Uh, and at one point, someone suggested to me that I start like recording podcasts about some of the difficulties and save them for later. And I haven't done that yet, um, mostly because I think they would just involve weeping. I wouldn't say anything. But now, after rereading this collection, I'm tempted to go back and maybe do some essay writing again in my spare time. I did make progress, she said, moving on from sad topics, on Bandits on Friday. Even though I was adding a scene and doing some revising, it was my best day all week. I got almost 1,500 words. So I'm hoping I am ramping up productivity wise. I really need to. I feel like my days are not that full, like talking to some of my friends who, like are dealing with small children and all this kind of thing. It's like my days aren't that freaking full. I should be able to produce more writing. And I keep thinking that maybe I just need to get more disciplined about it. Of course, my friend who does have like 2 kids and is trying to find time to write, says sarcastic things to me like, well, if I could write a novel in a month. And I'm like, it takes me more than a month, people. It takes me like 2 months. I still want to be able to produce more. And I mentioned on Friday that I think I mentioned this, that I think I'm going to stop and switch to Rogue Familiar and get that written, and let some other people read Bandits for a little while. I think that's what I'm going to do. We'll see if I end up doing it. You all should have like a drinking game or a betting pool bingo card out there for how often I say I'm going to do something and then whether or not I do it. Like the midpoint angst. It could be an entertaining bingo card for the podcast listeners. I'll provide prizes if you all want to put that together. What was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, so I had mentioned that on social media or some such. Do I want to say this yet? No, I'm not going to say this yet. I'll save this for tomorrow. Sorry. Oh, I'll go ahead and say it. Jeez, Jeffy. We are looking at getting a new kitten. We went this weekend and met our new kitten, who does not yet have a name. But our senior cat, Isabel, is failing. She is 17, and she's just not doing that great. Although she's doing better than she was a few days ago. So, but still, it'll help to have a new kitten in the house. We will pick him up after Christmas, and I will show you all a picture of him. I was trying to decide which picture to put. Oh, I know. I'll go ahead and put him on the show notes for this. So you can see the new kitty. No, we don't have a name. Names suggestions are welcome. Always happy to hear what you all think. So I'm hoping for a very productive week on Bandits. I do feel like the opening is much stronger. I told Dorinda that story about asking Jim Sorensen about the opening. I told you all this story last week, I guess on Friday. And she was like, I think you should absolutely start with the race too. And I'm like, I know. I don't know why I do this. Part of my process, I suppose. So I'm going to get to work. I hope you all are ready to tackle Monday, ready to tackle this week, that you have exciting things that you want to do, or at least gratifying and validating ones. How's that? And I will talk to you all tomorrow. You all take care. Bye-bye.